Do what you gotta do, mate. All right. I think we're all ready to start. Right. First of all, want to say thank you all for being here. This is kind of exciting. Just that it's our first in-person mesh meeting. And I want to also say thank you to Bill and to everyone in the Chattanooga Amateur Radio Club for giving us this opportunity to be here and to let us use their space for this. Really, really, really appreciate it. So I think we kind of did a little bit of introduction. You know, people got to meet and whatnot, but I guess we could do a couple introductions, just get a chance to say like, who you are, if you have a call sign, how you met. So my name's Stuart. Like I said, I don't have a call sign on. I'm not a ham, but I go by He Who Puns or HWP on the mesh. And I got into this because my cousin, who is a ham up in Nashville, he got interested after some of the violent storms up in Nashville many years ago. He started getting involved, and then like several other people, he found meshtastic being part of the ham community there and said, hey, Stuart, you might be interested in this. And then I got kind of swept up into it. So anyone else particularly want to introduce themselves first, or I can start introducing a few people if need be. There you go.
Hi, I'm the one that set up the Discord. Zix on the mesh. Carter, if you want to call me my actual name. I went blank. I love it. I got into this. Always loved technology and stuff. A bunch of YouTubers that I watch have been talking about it lately. So I was like, that sounds really cool. Let's see what's going on about it, and went from there. Just trying to get things set up with it, expand the mesh and everything, and yeah.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Appreciate it. So yeah, we'll do James first, and then we'll let you go. Here you go.
All right, so I'm James. I'm Animus Raptor in the Discord, KJ4QDM call sign. We're using my Twitch channel, obviously, for streaming this for the folks that can't make it in person. Normally, I do leatherworking and chainmail and blacksmithing on that sort of stuff on this channel, so this is outside of the norm for what my Twitch channel does, but it is what it is, and it was convenient.
Yeah, I should have said that up front. Thank you for letting us use your Twitch channel and for running all this online. So I really appreciate you.
Yes, sir. I am Nick, or AE0GG, or Punk, Gunk, Monk, anything that ends with UNK on the mesh. I just moved here probably at the end of September from Omaha, and I got into the mesh because I was Googling how to mesh my cell phone across the Omaha area because of bad storms, and Meshtastic popped up, and I just jumped straight into it, and I'm still doing it to today. But I'm a ham with Bill, and I kind of follow his lead. So that's me. I hope you can hear me.
All right. So yeah, if there's anyone else, Bill. There you go. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill, AA6BD. I'm one of the trustees at the club here, and glad that you all came and are participating in this. I found out about Meshtastic about 2-3 years ago. I guess someone gave a presentation at a club meeting and said, hey, this is this great thing called Meshtastic. And so that's where I got started, and I haven't done much since then, but we're re-gearing now. So that's it.
Thank you much. That's fine. If people don't want to, they don't feel like coming up and introducing, they do not have to, but happy to. So hey, happy to get to know people, right?
Too late now. Mark, AE4MM, another ham, got into Meshtastic as an accident of getting interested in meshcore. So I'm actually running a meshcore repeater, but Meshtastic is pretty cool too, and there's a lot more people on it than meshcore, at least around here.
Yeah, for now. So, anyone else want to? You're welcome to. Like I said, not going to obligate anyone to, but just give everyone an opportunity. So. Okay.
My name's Ed, KM6UTC. That's my identifier. I didn't go over to ham mode on the thing because I still like to leave the ability to talk to everybody. Also in the mesh core. kind of running with a couple mesh cores and a meshtastic with me and doing a benchmark ad hoc, see how things are working both ways.
Nice.
Max Lee on meshtastic. Usually my nodes are MAX and another number of characters. See Mad Max on the long range part of it.
Yes.
I'm from Port Oglethorpe, Coosa County. I'm a ham radio operator in 4NWD. I'm also emergency coordinator for Aries, Coosa, Walker, and now Dade counties. And so I'm trying to add a tool to my tool belt. The Georgia area seems to be migrating towards the medium fast, 45. So that's where I've got the majority of my nodes at right now. And so I'm hoping to learn how to configure them properly. So I'll start seeing the messages.
I'm Pyro, by the way.
Oh,
All
okay.
my nodes are Pyro.
Oh, all right. This is one of the fun things I was looking forward to, be able to put like some faces, some of the names either on Discord or on the mesh, just like, oh, that's who that person is. No.
I am playing with it integrated with home assistant, so I can put it together. Let's talk about that with Dan. Senior networking configured TV, so I'm doing all 5 different networks. Interesting juxtaposition of ham radio, meshtastic, and terrestrial network. I'm Jimmy. I'm very new to all this. I'm an operator or anything. I just put a mesh cord, a little repeater up on top of the house this morning.
Wow.
So Gunky Fango repeater that
Heyo.
over on the other side.
Nice. Right. Gotcha. Yeah, so we got a lot to talk about today. So, and we're going to be talking about. Actually, I should also, before I forget, Nick, I really appreciate you helping put together some of the slides and whatnot for this. So, really, thank you again for letting us use your computer and do that. So yeah, we got through the introductions and whatnot. Part of this is just going to be, an opportunity for us to get to know each other, but also to be able to like talk about standards, education. Some of y'all already, know a lot about some of this stuff. Some of y'all are, brand new. But just kind of make sure that we have an opportunity to establish, standards, what certain things mean, and also for us to be able to go forward what some of the standards are. You can see, we had a little bit of talk about medium fast. That's one of the standards that in meshtastic that Nashville and Atlanta and those areas are on, and there's been a lot of push especially from them, to go ahead and get us moved over to that standard. So both for make sure that we're avoiding future problems, but also for their benefit to expand their networks and potentially maybe be the bridge between Nashville and Atlanta. And we're also going to talk a little bit about meshcore. As far as we're concerned, it's like meshcore, meshtastic, among all the other different options. They're both valid. They both have their strengths. They both have their weaknesses. And as far as I think most of us have agreed, it shouldn't be just like, all, win or lose, one winner, one loser kind of thing. It's like they can both serve their purposes, and we just want to encourage both, right? And we want to talk a little about the infrastructure nodes, both for meshtastic and core, because we have some opportunities, existing opportunities, as well as, exploring some new routes and whatnot, and just be able to talk about what we want to do going forward and whatnot. I also ask for just a little bit of patience and grace. This is the first time we're doing this. Animus seems to have experience with streaming. The rest of us, we're kind of making up as we go. So we are not professionals. We're just very enthusiastic. So let's go ahead, and we did the introductions. I'm sorry, you showed me the slides and I completely skipped over. Yeah. So we'll talk about meshtastic first, since again that's kind of the bigger of the two in our area. There's a bunch of roles in meshtastic, and so they serve different purposes. Does anyone, real quick, does anyone actually need an explanation of the basics of how meshtastic works? No problem if it is. I just want to make sure if we need to cover that, we can, which doesn't look like we need to. So, all right, cool. Oh,
There was somebody that mentioned they were watching.
oh,
They
okay.
said that they did not know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely wanted to cover that. I just want to make sure it's like we're not going over these roles and someone's like, I don't know how meshtastic works. So um but yeah, so there's a bunch of different roles, and these aren't even all of them, to be frank. So but these are, these are a lot of the core ones. And meshtastic has a lot of opportunities to be, messaging system, but also to allow things like weather stations and BBS systems and whatnot. And it does a lot. So the issue with that is sometimes like you get in there and people don't know what to do. They get kind of like blindsided by this, or they accidentally assume, like, they say a router, and it's like, oh, I have a router at home, for my internet. I'll set that. That makes the most sense, and that can cause a problem. So kind of want to go over what these different modes are and what the benefits, pros and cons of them are, and when you should use them. Because we can kind of simplify it down. So client is the default node or default node type that you get, and that will both broadcast if you send messages out from your device, as well as rebroadcast others. So it'll, like the basic of meshtastic, it will pass any messages along, kind of like a old school, like passing notes in class. So very, very basic. Client mute does not actually broadcast anything other than your own stuff. So it may hear someone else coming through, so it may hear a message that passes on to, be it a public mesh or a private one-on-one communication. It will not forward that. And this is really a good point for like a lot of portable nodes. A lot of this is gonna some of this is gonna sound a lot like meshcore for some of y'all that are really into that. But the client mutes will only basically send their own stuff. So only send and receive their own stuff. They will not pay attention to if I'm a client mute, Carter sends something, my node is just like, I don't care about Carter. I only care about myself. And so that's, again, client mute has kind of become for a lot of the bigger meshes, like Atlanta. Did I just hit a button? Okay. Sorry, I asked because I heard a beep and I thought like I hit something on here and I thought maybe I broke something. So forgive me. So client mute for a lot of the bigger meshes like Nashville and Atlanta has kind of become the default, because a lot of times what can happen on the regular clients is, even though it's part of the strength of meshtastic is any device can route through any other device. Some of those bigger meshes, as people are moving around with, say, some of these very portable nodes like the cards and whatnot, the problem that you can have is that sometimes people will assume like, oh, I can route through this method, and it kind of gets funneled into these smaller nodes. But then like that person moves on, they go, they leave work, they go to a restaurant, they're, whatever, and then that connection gets cut off, and then all the nodes have to kind of rebroadcast, figure out what other routes, which again is a strength of the mesh, but can sometimes cause hiccups and whatnot. So a lot of these bigger meshes are going to client mute instead. It also has the benefit of it's a lower, as you can see from the chart, it's a lower power consumption. So you do save a little bit of battery life. For some nodes, that might not be a big deal. Again, these these smaller little card nodes don't have that great of a battery life, so you may notice a little bit, but not as much and whatnot. I really don't know a whole lot of people that use client hidden. I don't know if some of y'all can think of any others, but it's also lower device consumption, but you don't see it in your nodes list. So if you've had meshtastic for a while, especially like the first time you turn on your device and get it connected, you'll start seeing these notifications of, I'm seeing this guy, I see this node, I see this node. And client hidden, you're just not going to get that. It's like I'm just silently in the thing. And it's also not as much rebroadcasting. But again, this role, you don't really see it a whole lot. And these are the most common for your portables, just what you carry around you day to day. Once you get to like starting to talk about some of the more stationary nodes, whether it's something on your rooftop or on the big towers and whatnot, that's when you start getting into client-based routers and whatnot. If the two big ones I want to actually focus on really are at the moment are client-based and router, because those are kind of the two distinguishing functions. So a lot of times, like we mentioned with meshtastic, you want to put something on your rooftop. Maybe for example, my house it's in a bit of a hole, so relatively speak. So I can receive fantastic. I can't transmit out very well. So I can hear everyone else talking. and no one else is hearing me. So no matter what I do. But that's just with the portable. So if I wanted, I could put, like a lot of people do with other things, I could put an antenna or a node up in my attic or on top of my roof and be able to maybe improve the signal and whatnot. The issue that what happens is, of course, some people will say, like I mentioned before, they'll set them to router. And the router makes sense. The problem with the router is that it's really designed for the most ideal locations. So any of our hams, of course, know about, like, you know, the towers and whatnot. They're the big community efforts and whatnot. Those are the kind of places that we really would want to have a router. And those really should be done with kind of a community planning thing in mind. If you put them in a wrong location, because I'll get to in a second, if you put them in the wrong location, routers can sometimes actually be more of a bottleneck and a problem than actual benefit, especially if you're setting to something that is like not really designed to be, you know, a potential router and whatnot. So like, you know, if you try to set this thing as a router, everyone's going to have a bad time. Part of that is, of course, the power consumption is high. The other reason is that routers are, they have not only just the ability to retransmit like the clients do, but they also get priority on the network. So this kind of gets into some of the how meshtastic works. But when it broadcasts, someone, let's say I message out, your devices may hear me. Of course, whoever's closest is going to hear me first, most likely, not counting for any geography or anything else in the way. But they're not going to rebroadcast immediately. There is a built-in mechanism so that different devices start a random counter, and that counter is what decides when I'm going to broadcast. Unless, of course, it hears, oh, someone else has rebroadcasted, I don't maybe not necessarily do this. Routers, oh, go ahead.
How much of a delay are you talking about?
It's there's actually kind of a random one.
Is it like a second or a minute or
it's
second or
yeah, it's milliseconds. It's milliseconds.
milliseconds?
Yes. So, good question. But routers have that reduced. As you can see, they are a prioritized. There's the mouse. There it is. So it's a prioritized routing. So they actually have a reduced time counter for that, and that makes sense. Like these are going to be in the best locations. They're probably going to be able to hear most everybody. We want to make sure that they actually can get those messages out faster because they're going to be the better ones to do it than just some individual client, right? But of course, again, if they have the priority and they're in a bad location, that's going to cause hangups, that's going to cause hiccups, and can even cause the mesh to really just not work the way that it should. So this one that we really recommend for a house, or like we said, the attic or the rooftop antennas, is this role client base. This is a relatively new role compared to, say, some of the other ones. But the idea here is that the client base will essentially acts like a client. It is higher power consumption. It's same as client. Excuse me, I was looking at the wrong thing. But it has the ability for you to mark favorites. And if you've seen the Meshtastic app on your phone, you've been able to mark favorites. And normally for a regular client, your portable device, all that does is that puts them at the top of the node list so you can see them and get to them quicker. It's a nice function, but it's not really a big deal. Client base, what it does is it actually will give priority to any nodes that you have marked as your favorites. So if for myself, if I have my little rooftop node, a little solar node, sitting up there, and it sees Bill and it sees Carter and it sees Nick's nodes or messages, and they're passing through, each one of them will get roughly equal priority as far as that device is concerned. But if I have my own node marked as a favorite, or let's say I have Carter's node marked as a favorite, that's it'll be able to detect that and say, oh, I know who that node is. That's one of my guys. Oh, someone's getting messages. So someone is going to get whoever is marked as a favorite, in this case, let's say Carter or myself. Hey, that message is coming from them. Hey, that message is going to them. I am going to be able to actually prioritize this. I'm going to prioritize and send this out faster than anybody else. So I'm going to send out Carter's messages. I'm going to go ahead and send these packages to Stuart faster, but I'm not going to worry about anybody else, until those people are taken care of. So real quick, is everyone following? Does anyone have questions? Again, I know I'm kind of throwing a lot at you, and I want to make sure that I'm not, skipping things or I'm confusing people or leaving things out. So is everyone good so far? Excellent. So now we have two other roles. Repeater, I'll just hit real quick. Repeater is actually a deprecated role. That was one that it didn't do any kind of rebroadcast. Well, it did a little bit. But you weren't going to be using it like the same way you would a client to actually send out messages. It's just by its very nature, it's repeating, and that's all it's doing. But this has been deprecated by the devs. So any newer devices, any newer firmwares, that's not really a role that you can set. If you see it, it's an older node and one that is, hasn't been updated. It might still be serving a purpose, but again, it's not really going to be used anymore. Router late is a relatively new one. And there's some stuff actually with this potential changes coming around that some of this functionality could be merged into client base. We're not going to get into that right now. But router late acts very similarly to the router, but it does not have the prioritized function that router does, but it does allow for essentially kind of acts kind of a middle ground between the router function and the client base. So it can still have a little bit of that routing functionality and have some ability to do that and help with that network, but it does not. It actually has an intentional by the name late. It actually delays itself intentionally to let other nodes be able to communicate. So it could say, kind of act as a secondary, like, hey, if y'all need me, I will do this thing. I can help fill this backbone. But if someone else has got it, someone else has got a better job or can do it better, I'm gonna let them do that, and I'll handle it later. So, does that all make sense? Again, is everything kind of clear? So. As far as meshtastic is concerned, we're kind of really focusing on 3 to 4, and I should mention this again. There's a couple other roles. For example, there's a tracker node, which acts a lot like if you've had a tile or an air tag, something like that. It really focuses on the GPS and being able to track something. There's another node, sensor, which is really used a lot in you have farm communities or weather stations and whatnot. But for our purposes, for the messaging purposes, that's not one that we're focusing on because it's such a niche role compared to these other ones. A lot of the communities and what we're kind of we're looking at following for ourselves is we're really focusing on client mute, client base, and then router. Those are really the ones that we're focusing on right now. Like I mentioned, router, we want to focus on that being like, these are the community driven stations. And these are the ones that we want in the best locations. So not on people's rooftops, maybe not even necessarily on a skyscraper, especially with Chattanooga's geography, what it is. We really want to focus these on like the mountaintop locations, the most ideal, best radio locations. Client base, like we said, rooftop and attic top for people's like home to be able to improve their signal, be able to improve everything. That's what we want to be able to. That's what we want people to do for their own solar or rooftop nodes. And then client mute and client hidden, probably for a lot of us, if we're staying in the city, client mute might be best. Client may still have a place for it. But really one of these two for your portable client mute is probably the preferred, especially as our mesh continues to grow. We probably want to just keep it on client mute for a lot of the portables, but client may still be useful in certain situations, especially as places like in the North Chattanooga right now, we don't have a whole lot in the North at the moment. A lot of our current meshtastic, both like population as well as like actual infrastructure, is currently located on the south and east side. So something like in people that are in more the North Chattanooga, even like going to like Red Bank, Hicks, and Sauter Daisy, probably would benefit more from having client instead of client mute. But for people that are going to be downtown, more on the southeast side, even Cleveland side, it might be better to stick with client mute for the time being. And of course, one of the things with meshtastic that's nice is, we can change these roles as we need to, especially if someone's gonna, we've got someone out in, all the different trails and hiking and whatnot. It's probably a lot more beneficial for them to go ahead and switch themselves to client, for that rebroadcasting effort, because you might not, granted we have pretty good here, especially if you're on some of the main trails on Lookout or Signal, but for some of the more out there places where you might not have good cell reception, having, going ahead and setting your thing to client, or even people that are around the area setting them to client, would probably be a better thing in general. So does that all make sense? Do we have any other questions or concerns about that, or any thoughts about that? I want to make sure that I'm not just saying, this is what we're going to do, obey me. So, all right, cool. Go on to the next thing. Oh, please. No. Yes. Oh, no. So there is actually a repeater function in meshcore, and we're going to talk about that when we get to meshcore section. For meshtastic specifically, repeater is just a deprecated role. So it's no longer going to be used at all. So if you see it, even if you got a new device today and update it to the latest version of the firmware, you're not even going to see that being an option for your device. It was one that had a certain function, and they just kind of have decided to replace it with router late, and client base. So it's the reason that I'm really not going over it is because it's no longer functional. So All right, moving on. Yeah, so since you mentioned it, let's talk about meshcore. Meshcore is a lot simpler. Like I mentioned, meshtastic has the ability, it really wants to be not everything, but it wants to be a lot. So like I said, you can have this being as like a messaging system, but you can also have it being a GPS tracker. You can have it for communicating stuff across sensors. You can have it be a bulletin board system. There's a lot of stuff that people have done. Some that is definitely officially supported by the developers. Some that people have kind of tacked on and it works, and we hope it stays that way. But meshcore is really kind of focused by its name on the core, which is just the messaging. Yeah, it does have GPS functionality, so you can share your location with people, especially like being in an emergency scenario or just like, where are you? I can't find you in this place. But it really has technically 4, but there's really only 3 roles that matter for meshcore, and that is companion, that is repeater, and that is room server. So the difference that with meshtastic is, of course, like I said, any device can pretty much repeat any other device, with the exception of things like client mute, for example, in meshtastic. But any device can repeat any other device. So again, like I said, if I'm talking to Carter, our devices can talk directly to each other. But if we can't see each other directly, but Bill's in between us, meshtastic can say, hey, I can forward through Bill, get to Carter. Again, it's the note passing analogy in classes. Meshcore is a lot more kind of centralized, the way that you might expect, say, internet or even like phone systems and whatnot. So you have the companion, which is our individual devices. There's a lot of overlap. You can use a lot of the same devices. And so again, in the case of like Carter, myself, or I'll use someone else. I'll use I don't know if you care or not, Carter, but let's say I want to message Nick. So if Nick and I are close by each other, our devices can still directly connect, one-to-one, just like we're having a face-to-face conversation. But if we are not here, if we're not close enough to be able to direct, and let's say again, Bill or Nick or whoever else is in between us, and they also have a companion node, the companion node will not do anything. So they will not forward our message between Nick and myself. They're just going to completely just ignore those messages, because that's not the role. The companion role is just to message, to myself, or from myself to other people, but it's not meant to forward other people's stuff. It does not repeat your messages. Repeater then acts similar to the router or the client base, especially the router role in meshtastic. So you will have it be it, say, on a rooftop or on a mountaintop, wherever it is. And so in the event that Nick and I cannot communicate directly with each other, if, say, Mark has a repeater on his roof, on a tower somewhere, wherever that is, but and both of our devices can see that repeater, our nodes will go through that repeater and then to each other. So the repeaters are, again, by the definition of the name, they are extending that range, and they are the ones that are handling the traffic. The benefit to this is, again, like, you don't have as much, it's a less noisier protocol than meshtastic, because meshtastic, even if you really like drill it down, they're sending, here I am, you can broadcast through me, or I'm on the mesh, or here's my GPS, and especially when you get the really noisy ones, here's my telemetry data, here's what the weather is. It's a very noisy protocol, and as a lot of radio people know, you really don't want to be chatting if you don't have reason to be chatting, especially when more important things are going on. So the meshcore, it basically says, hey, the repeaters are going to be the ones to handle that. And the nice thing with meshcore then is that when these devices have a route, they actually stop let me phrase that. They will stop advertising themselves or reduce their amount of advertising. So the first time I put a device on the meshcore, like I boot this up for the first time, and I get it going, the nice thing with meshcore is it'll say, hey, I'm here, who's around me? Once it starts figuring out the routes and like who's around it, especially with the repeaters, and it knows how to get to those like paths between, say, like from me to Nick, it will actually reduce its broadcast, and it will say, all right, I don't need to do this as much. I pretty much know the path that I need to take to communicate through this area. But if for whatever reason it does lose that, let's say you take it somewhere else, you travel across the country, a different city, and you turn it on, and it's like, I have no idea where I am. I'm not hearing all the people that I normally do. It'll do kind of a big broadcast, say, hey, here's who I am, where the heck am I, and how do I talk to people? So it will do that, but once it knows that lay of the land, it doesn't have to worry about that, and it becomes a much less noisy protocol. But the downside, of course, as you can kind of figure out, is if you have to have the repeaters doing your job, it's a lot harder to talk to people, because you need people building that infrastructure, even if it's just on their rooftops. Whereas like with meshtastic, I have a node, someone else has a node, we see we get that nice little like ding that says, hey, we see someone. Here's another node. Here's another node. And you can start potentially talking to those people. Meshcore, if people just only have companion nodes, they really can't talk to each other very well. So it's very, very important to have this repeater or these repeaters built out. However, we talked, of course, with meshtastic that there's that difference between the client base and the router and the important difference between the two. Benefit to meshcore, you don't have to worry about that. Putting a repeater in on your rooftop and saying it as that doesn't cause nearly the same problems. It really doesn't cause any of the same problems. Same way if it's on a mountaintop and whatnot. So you don't really have to worry about those issues the way that you have to do with meshtastic. So is everyone following so far? I want to make sure. Cool. Room server is the last one. And the nice thing about this is that it's pretty much just kind of keeps a record of everything. And so you can essentially talk to that device. If you say, we've been there, if you've been on any of the mesh systems, you may see someone replying to an empty message and you never got that message. Whether it's just because you were, you're too far away from it, you lost the hop count, or maybe it's a situation where like your device was off, it was in a hole, it couldn't hear it for whatever reason. So you can see someone replying, but you don't know what they're replying to or about. Room server is a role that a device can essentially sit, and all it does is it just stores that device. It stores all the messages, all the traffic that it sees. And so if you get home, for example, you have this sit in your home, you have a rooftop node, and you come back home after a long day at work or going out and about, and when you want to check, you can essentially ping that room server and say, hey, what did I miss? And it can update you on those messages. Now, you don't have to be home actually for that. You can, if it's on the larger mesh, you could check into it. But really, it's kind of like, as he puts here, it's like an email server. You can come back later, get your messages, and you can see all this stuff. So if you just want the core functionality of meshcore, all you need is a companion and repeater, and that could be big infrastructure stuff, projects that we want to deploy, or it can just be, I have my little portable, and then I have a rooftop device, a little solar node, and I'm good. But again, we need to make sure if we're deploying meshcore that we're going to need a lot more community effort to get those nodes put up. We can do some of that independently with again rooftop, but especially same thing with meshtastic. If we have some of those like big nodes on top of like the ideal locations, that's really going to help us. Same way with meshtastic, but even more so. Everyone following so far? Again, I know I'm checking in a lot. I just want to make sure that everyone's good on that. So, yeah, that's and as far as we're concerned, we're not really worried about saying. I know I'm repeating myself, but we're not really worried about this being like meshcore has to be the one and screw meshtastic or vice versa. This is not a winner take all sort of thing. We honestly feel, I think most of us, like in talking about it, we really feel like there's a lot of benefits to both. In a lot of the urban environments, meshcore honestly makes a lot more sense. And I say this as someone that really likes meshtastic as a protocol. I admit my bias. But frankly, like meshcore as an urban protocol makes a whole lot more sense. But that being said, meshcore, again, it requires a lot of community working together to build this stuff. Meshtastic is a lot better for those ad hoc networks, and especially with something like, if I'm going hiking or I'm going somewhere where I don't really have good cell phone signal, I'm definitely going to keep this thing on meshtastic because it's going to be a whole lot better. My brother, when he goes out hiking, he's going to be using meshtastic. He's not going to be using meshcore, Now, granted, we can put people on like, we could have like repeaters and whatnot, like in, say, on the edges of things like that. So it's not to say that you can't do it, but I know like with him and his buddies, meshtastic is going to fill that role. Hey, what's up, Jimmy?
Have you seen the latest update on the firmware for meshcore? It allows companion repeating.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember someone, might have been, was it Nick? Was it you that shared it? Okay. So I think someone had shared something about the recent firmware stuff, but I admit I hadn't had a chance to look over it. So yeah. Okay, that's good to know. No, I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, I hadn't had a chance to look over the recent changes and whatnot. So no, please. No, I appreciate that. And this is, again, I don't want this to be like, Stuart's the leader, Stuart's the only one in charge. Like, no, that's not the point of this. I don't want to be in charge of all that. So I am happy to serve. I'm happy to serve in a role and whatnot. I don't want to be like, anyone thinking even that I'm like trying to be like the one.
Really
Yeah.
Cool, I go camping a lot, so if I'm out camping, I'm just
yeah.
switch the frequency, I'm good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's fantastic. And I think a lot of people. Sorry, did I interrupt you? I apologize. I cut you off. I really think like in a lot of ways, a lot of these we're starting to see the even though they're not compatible as much as I wish they were. We're really seeing both of them. Meshcore is doing that. One of the things we didn't talk about with meshtastic is they are trying to adjust it so that routers you can favorite other routers the same way client bases can. But one of the things that they're trying to do with the routers is that if you favorite if two routers favorite each other, that you don't have to worry about the hop count. So like messages can get farther, same way that you don't have to worry about that with meshcore. Really, that's not something we talked about. If people want to get into that, we can, but I'm not particularly worried about it. So the point is like we're really seeing these devices or these different standards kind of borrowing from each other. It's like even if they're not gonna try to be if they're not both gonna try to be like cross compatible and whatnot, at the very least we're seeing them kind of like taking the best ideas from each other and trying to implement them in their own way. So that leads us into infrastructure. So we've got a couple things. I think Bill, I'm going to defer to you first. Talk about some of the CARC nodes that are going up, and then we'll talk about some other places that are going up, but separate from that, and maybe talk about open up the floor some ideas if we have other places that people think we could explore for good infrastructure nodes. So, Bill, I'm going to hand off to you.
Thank you. Okay, the stuff that Chattanooga Amateur Radio Club is doing has mostly been within the last 3-4 months. Prior to that, I don't think we cared much about meshtastic. And it's actually a struggle because the club says we're going to spend our money on amateur radio stuff, and meshtastic is not amateur radio. So we have some repeaters up. Those repeaters are because people like me bought them and put them up. But the club is supporting the effort in that we have the sites where we can put them up. So we just put one up on Signal Mountain on Monday. That's the first one that's up there. Actually, we put Beechwood up and Signal Mountain just about the same time. Beechwood, that's not right. Birchwood, it's on Birchwood. The club president is a farmer, and he lives in Birchwood, which is, if you don't know where that is, it's almost at the end of the county if you go north. And he has a tower for his amateur radio repeaters that he has in his farm, and he stuck a meshtastic node up there too as a repeater because he understands the principle of meshtastic, and he's more concerned about he being able to talk to his fellow farmers, and looks like meshtastic's a good solution for that. So he put that node up, and we're trying to standardize. We're going to use Seed Studio solar repeaters. It's going to be our standard. We're still learning about the antennas and filters and stuff like that. I just heard about low bandpass filters that you can get for these things. I don't know if you all know about these, but I didn't know anything about that until fairly recently. We don't have any of them deployed yet, but we're looking at that. And we're also trying to understand what antennas make most sense. From what I've heard, just because it's bigger, it may not necessarily be better. It may be that it picks up more noise and gets you in trouble. So we're going to learn about that. The Signal Mountain site, I was up there for the first time Monday. And if you know Signal Mountain, you go up on top and it's kind of level up on top, and then you drive over on the side and all of a sudden, whoosh, there it goes down. And it's right on the edge. I don't know the history of this, but apparently the people who own this particular shack have a commercial radio station to broadcast out of that shack. And they said, yeah, you can put a repeater in there too. So we have one there that's on VHF. And there's going to be another one added on there shortly, another ham radio. You all know about North Georgia GMRS? North Georgia GMRS is a kind of a club that has fancy repeaters all over Georgia and beyond. And a couple of those are in the Chattanooga area. They also have, they've started up a new, I don't know what you call it, new program. Instead of North Georgia GMRS, it's North Georgia ARM, amateur radio repeaters. And it's the same principle as what they have with the other ones. You buy a membership in the club for a year and you get to use it. And they're going to put one up in the same location on Signal Mountain. That doesn't have much to do with meshtastic, but no. Anyhow, there'll be another one up there. And the Birchwood one is up. Jeff Martin is the person who owns the farm up in Birchwood, and he's actively looking for sites between Birchwood and here so that he can get more repeater coverage. And he'll find a few more. We'll put them up on masts in other farmers' areas and provide some more coverage through that. We also are going to put one up here. This building has, this is a really nice facility for us. The county owns this thing. This is an old grade school, and they're putting a lot of money into upgrading it. The ceiling used to be 3 foot higher. They lowered it and put in these LED lights, and they put the window shades in and the heat pump thing, and they're putting a lot of work into it. And we fortunately had a political connection, so we were able to get this classroom, which I'm not much into politics, but I'm happy to have the classroom. We use this for some meetings. We're using it for this. I said, hey, is it okay if I have? Yeah, sure, go right ahead, no problem. So if you all want to have other meetings here, that's okay too. We can make that happen. There's an auditorium here that we need for bigger events. Do you all know what Skywarn is? Everybody familiar with Skywarn's the weather program. We're going to do training. A meteorologist from Morristown is going to come down here. When is it? Next Thursday? Yeah, next Thursday. He's going to come down and do training on Skywarn. And if you attend the training, then you can get certified as a Skywarn observer. Skywarn does not have anything to do directly with amateur radio or meshtastic or anything else. Any mode is okay with them. They don't care. If you just want to be somebody that goes and observes what's going on, that's good. The purpose of Skywarn is if you are a person and you're down on the ground and you see something happen, like trees fall or high winds go through or it starts hailing, they want to know about it because they're looking at it from a radar perspective a couple thousand feet and they don't know what's happening on the ground. And if you tell them what's happening on the ground, they can correlate that with what's happening on their radar, and that makes the radar better. So it's a really good program for us. If you're interested in participating, come to the training. It's free. It's just by the time you're done, you'll be able to be certified as a Skywarn spotter. That's a great thing. I don't know why I got into that. I guess just because it's in the building and it's a nice thing that's here. Yeah, I think it's great. And we're also looking at putting one on Missionary Ridge. We have there's a homeowner there that has a small tower, and they've allowed us to put a couple Arden nodes up on that. We're also looking at putting up an APRS node, and we'll see what else we put up there. In this building, we have just outside of here, you can't really see it from here, but just a little bit over there, it's got to be between the buildings. We have a mast that we put up, is I think 35 feet tall, and we can drop it down and put things on the antenna and then put it back up. And we're going to put an HF radio up there. We're going to have VHF and UHF antennas up there. Not radio. We're going to put the antenna up there. Radio will be in here. And we're making plans to put a console in here. It'll be a 6-foot table with a shelf on top, nicely secured. We're going to put a couple radios in here so that we have a place to have club participation in radio if you want to. We're also going to put APRS up. You know about APRS? I see a lot of nods. APRS is, what's A stand for? Automated Position Reporting System. It used to be automated. It used to be automated position. Now it's automated packet reporting because it does more than positioning. It also does messaging. And we also are going to have a WinLink station here, so we can have a way to connect into the WinLink system. WinLink is email over radio frequencies. Got started by a bunch of sailors who said, oh, gee, we're out on the seas and we'd like to communicate with other people, with our other sailor buddies. And so they started doing it, and it was all radio. And then they said, this is pretty cool. Maybe we should be able to connect to our families. And so they interconnect to the regular Ethernet, or regular email system. And WinLink's kind of a cool thing. So we're going to get a connector up here for that. Between Harrison and Beechwood, I already talked about that. What was the other one that I mentioned earlier?
Beechwood,
forgot.
Signal Mountain, Harrison. You're talking about here. And we got talking about like APRS.
Yeah, it seems to me there was somewhere else that we were thinking about putting one up, but I don't remember what it is. Yeah.
Again?
Oh, I know what the other one is. White Mountain. We are planning to. We have right now. We have 2 repeaters on Signal Mountain. No, Lookout Mountain. I always get the 2 confused. I've only been here for a couple of years, and I have to get through my head which is which. But on Lookout Mountain, we have 2 repeaters. There's a VHF and a UHF repeater there. I don't know, for those of you who don't know, VHF is 144 megahertz, UHF is 444 megahertz, roughly. We have both of those on a water tower on Lookout Mountain. We've decided we're going to take the UHF repeater from there and move it up to White Oak Mountain, which is up in the north part of the county. And we're going to be 150 feet above the ground, which is like 2,000 feet above sea level, so it's pretty high. We have an opportunity if some of us want to contribute and put a meshtastic repeater up there. That should be very doable. So we're hoping we can do that too. That was the other one that I didn't remember. And we'll see what else develops at that site. But the big problem there is 150 feet up is a long way, and you have to put hardline in. Hardline is really big coax that is really sturdy and allows you to have very low loss. So you can put something 150 feet up from your tower, and we're going to be doing that as soon as we get the hardline secured. We're working on that right now. The club is primarily amateur radio, but people have other interests, and Nick did a presentation on meshtastic, got a lot of interest, and I think we'll grow into that. And I'm hoping we can pull the club into saying, you know, hey, it's radio. It's not just amateur radio, but radio, and we'll get into other things that way. There's another thing we're doing, Arden, which is 5 gigahertz. It uses repurposed Wi-Fi equipment, and we have a little Arden over here, camera there. We're not actually using that right now. We're just getting it set up, but we will eventually get that set up. We're doing that primarily for security in this room because we'd like to know if anything happens here, and we want it to let us know. But Arden is runs a full TCP/IP stack, so you can do anything you do on TCP/IP with it. And right now it's at 5.6 gigahertz, I think it is. It also works at 2.4 and 900 megahertz, same as meshtastic and meshcore. And they're just getting into that, and I hope that goes somewhere, and we'll be able to put that up as well, and we'll maybe be able to connect things. Who knows?
That'd be awesome.
Any questions or thoughts?
Did you see something with the repeater here for meshtastic as well?
Yes. Yes. One thing I do not know yet, and I'm hoping that this meeting can help me figure this out. Gee, do we need to be thinking about meshtastic and meshcore repeaters at all the locations where we put them up? And then we got this long fast and medium fast, and this is too many repeaters. We've got to sort this out so we can do the right thing here. But whatever makes sense, we have the possibility to do that, and you all can help with that too.
Thank you, Bill.
Oh, w4am.net is the club website. If you want to find out what's happening at the club, go there and look. You can also sign up for our mailing list, and we have like 20 different activities you might sign up for. All we'll do is send an email out when we broadcast the information. We don't bug you any other way.
All right. Thank you much. Yeah, like Bill mentioned, we want to make sure that we're being able to talk about like what we want to do, not just what's going on right now, but plan properly for the future with all these things. Last thing we wanted to do is like, let's do this. Now let's add this. Let's add one more thing, and go going up and down more than we've got to do that. Speaking of further infrastructure thing, there's going to be a couple caveats with this, but we got a notice through the Discord back at the beginning of January about the CARTA. Of course, that's most people know as the bus system, and whatnot. But we got notice through them that they are implementing meshtastic into their bus systems and also into some of their buildings. Specifically, they've got actually 3 buildings on the south side, one on North Shore, and then one on Lookout Mountain. Specifically, they said that one would be at the top of the incline railway on Lookout Mountain. which is going to be really, honestly, really great. The buses, they're going to have meshtastic in there, but those are frankly, as I said, those are just asset tracking only. They're only going to just be for, hey, how the bus is doing and whatnot. Make sure we know where they are, if there's any issues with that. The buses are going to be much less useful for future meshtastic, functionality. But the reason I'm mentioning this is because he did say that while it is first and foremost for Carta's use with their buses and their stops and whatnot, they are still going to keep it open to the rest of the mesh system, so that our messages can still pass through their repeaters and through their nodes. And by extension, that means their systems can pass through ours. Now, the reason I said up front, this is a caveat. Again, this is meshtastic only, so this is not meshcore. The reason I'm putting the caveat here is that one, we've not heard back anything else. We've checked for updates, and we've not heard anything else back from him about this. And I don't know if that's because they're still working on stuff, or maybe that maybe something's going on with the project, or maybe it's going to go later. We honestly don't know. The other issue is, again, even though they're leaving it open to the larger mesh, they said this is still first and foremost for their use. So it's kind of something where this might be a great benefit, but this might not be something that we want to rely upon, especially as we're talking about potentially going to medium fast, whether we want to do that or not. And if we're trying to coordinate any of our larger mesh communications and mesh standards with them, and that might be, I would love to have them there. And I'm not saying we can't, but it's something worth talking about if that might be a delay in anything that we want to do, especially if we don't have a good, reliable line of communication. So again, this is not something to say that we can't or should exclude them at all. This is just something to say, hey, this is a good opportunity, but since we got that initial notice about this, we've not heard anything, and this might not be something we want to rely upon for future mesh planning, especially again, since if we want to talk about mesh core, right now this is only meshtastic. So
Another one.
oh, please.
Channel 12 is planning on putting a meshtastic repeater up on their town.
Really?
Yes. There's the weatherman there. One of the weathermen is a ham.
Okay, that makes sense.
And our president Jeff Martin met with them a couple of weeks ago, and they told him that they had cleared it, that it wouldn't interfere with their antenna usage.
Okay.
So they were planning on sticking that up. That's the last I've heard of it, but if I hear more, I'll let you know.
Remind me, where's their antenna? Do you know?
It's on the south side.
Okay, all right. So cool. That's awesome. Okay, so one last thing with infrastructure was just kind of talking about, and I think Bill kind of talked about a little bit, is some ideas where would be good to explore putting up some nodes. And part of this gets into meshcore and meshtastic if we want to deploy both. Again, if we do want to do any of this, I want to make sure that we're on the same page about what we're deploying and how much, so that way we avoid people having to bring down masts, or more so having to climb up towers or trees or whatnot to add things just on people's whims. So I'd rather if we want to do any infrastructure, and not that we have to do all of it today, but if we want to do any planning, that we're saying, all right, let's decide what we're going to do so that we only have to have people do it once, outside of equipment crapping out or whatever. So we talked, and there was, I think you mentioned, you had it on the slide there, talking about Missionary Ridge. One of the things with the ridge cut is there's a lot of stuff in Cleveland, and there's a lot of stuff on southern Chattanooga, and okay, cool. Appreciate the heads up. So we might be a good time for a bathroom break and breather. But one thing, again, right now we have a lot of people in Cleveland. We have a lot of people in South Chattanooga, and there's a lot of, pardon the pun, meshing. Wait a minute, I'm he who puns. Yes, intend the puns. There's a lot of people that can mesh as people come to and from during the day, and as people are able to they come to work, they go to restaurants, they do all that stuff, and then when everyone goes home, they kind of disconnect to a larger extent. So, and it's really because of the ridge that we really have a problem with getting literally getting over the hump, if we will. So that was one. Talked more about North Chattanooga as well. We don't have once you get kind of, at least in Chattanooga proper, once you get kind of past North Shore, there's really nothing. Granted, we have the Signal Mountain node now, but really there's not I think I once saw a node in Soddy Daisy on the larger map, but like once you get past there, there's not really anything there. That kind of gets a little bit into like future if we want to expand up toward Nashville, but that's going to take a much larger effort as well. But I was curious about like any thoughts as well about maybe other locations that we would be interested in. Now we hit a few, but any thoughts about that in future infrastructure planning? Yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah. Mhm. Ooh-wee. Okay. So flat top either seeing if we can get that back up and running or maybe like establish something else then. Okay. Pick it up and move it somewhere else. Got it. All right. What else? What are some other thoughts that people might have?
So the highest elevation is obvious.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, I 100% agree about that. And that might be good too with like whether having some people putting up solar repeaters on their house or whatnot, or yeah, if we can find some locations that would help fix some of those soup bowls. Real quick, how are we looking on time?
Got 2 minutes till the ad break.
2 minutes to the ad break. Do we want to just go ahead and say like, hey, let's do a 5-minute break? You said it's a 3-minute ad break on Twitch, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to say like?
I run 3-minute ad breaks because that buys me an hour without viewers having the ad.
All right, gotcha. So yeah, let's take a 5-minute break. People can get pizza, get drinks from the restroom. Let's take a 5-minute break and we'll pick up from there. So sorry to interrupt during the middle of it, but do what you gotta do. All right, good. So, all right, so going back, if want to continue the infrastructure conversation real quick. So, of course, we had Flat Top talking about that. We talked about some of the bowls and whatnot. I think some of that's going to be like a little bit trial and error, figure out like where some of those bowls are and whatnot. And some of that might require just some opportunity to do, like we were saying, some of that opportunity to put up some rooftop nodes for some people, some client bases to help with that. Did you have anything else particular in mind? Want to make sure I didn't cut you off and whatnot, or
No, that was it. Just I didn't want the Super Bowl included because everybody focused on the high point.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Their
yeah.
own quadrant.
Oh, 100%, 100%. So, all right. Any other thoughts as far as like locations and sites that people could think about? And this is something like later we can we can always follow up with later. This is not something we have to decide everything today. Um,
So I currently work here off of about getting the notes there. Online is what it's called. So I've been checking something there to try to help bridge the gap that, and then this is decently close to here. I'm sure the repeater when it gets put up here will also help. And then I live in Cleveland. I'm gonna try to get as soon as I get the ability to put it up. I'm getting a medium fast node set at my mom's house. Super sent me a radio for test out medium fast in Cleveland. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. And I'll have that set up at my mother's house. Right now, she has much better coverage. She's not quite in a hole as much as I am. So when I'm at her house, I can actually get out to the mesh there in Cleveland. But when I'm my house, that's not so much luck. So I'm gonna get that set up at her place, and we'll see how. The very least, we'll see how medium fast starts out there in Cleveland.
Cool. I left this out of the infrastructure conversation. I'll just mention it here. I work at UTC in the networking department, and I've started some conversations with some of the people there, including with the safety department, to see about putting up some nodes, both for meshtastic and meshcore. Meshtastic have been a little bit more interest just because of the Carta stuff that's been mentioned, but part of the reason that they seem a little bit more interested is and some of y'all have heard this before, so forgive me if I'm repeating it, but as some of y'all remember, and we're very fortunate that nothing actually happened, but if y'all remember, UTC had that false shooter scare at the beginning of the fall semester back in August. And again, we're so happy that nothing actually happened. But if you were on any other cellular carrier that was not Verizon, you could not get any messages or phone calls out. So just people on regular internet was fine, especially with EPB and whatnot. Verizon people were able to do, but AT&T, T-Mobile, no one else was able to get out and whatnot, much less if you were on the MVNOs. So that was something the university has been looking at, like trying to expand initially cell coverage down there, but has been talking with them. Some of them seem interested in seeing meshtastic and potentially meshcore as like another layer. It's not going to be like people's first choice, but just between like say, hey, we've got cellular, we've got EPB in our local stuff, and then we potentially have this, including the campus police force that's there. They have radios that are both Wi-Fi as well as traditional radio based, for their own communications and whatnot between them. So again, like it's something where again, there's nothing that's guaranteed there. They've not promised anything, and it's just early conversation. But that's something where some of those buildings, like there's the mechanical sciences, computer science building, and the library, and then what used to be called the Chattanooga State Office Building, used to be a government building on Macaulay, and now UTC owns it. Those are going to be something like good locations as well to do some of that stuff on. But again, there's nothing promised there. It's very early conversations, but that might help fill out some of the downtown frequencies as well. So, I think again, with the other thing I want to cover with the infrastructure stuff is us thinking about, Bill had mentioned it with figuring out is basically what we're talking about meshtastic, we're talking about meshcore, and we're not trying to favor both, but again, we don't want to have people climbing up to to go put up meshtastic now, and then a few months later or a year later, it's like, yeah, we're going to also add meshcore. think even though meshcore right now it's very small compared to meshtastic, we have a much smaller population. It is growing. Something we didn't talk about is there is a local YouTuber goes by the Comms channel or TC2. Um, he's been pretty big and actually get meshtastic to grow and whatnot, but also meshcore. And he made a video a few months back. I'm forgetting how exactly long, but he made a video a little while back talking about him basically saying he's going to focus entirely on meshcore. And him being in Chattanooga, he wants to build like a mesh core chain going from like North Georgia all the way up to like Northeast Tennessee and potentially up to like Virginia and the Carolinas and Kentucky. And while it's still very early days and whatnot, it's still a very incomplete chain. There's been a lot of enthusiastic response from the community and the people that are involved in it. Meshcore, one of the things we didn't mention is it actually, while still again very much smaller than Meshtastic, there are some places that have it and have pretty much gone entirely almost Meshcore or majority of that. UK actually has a lot of people with that. Boston area has it. Austin, Texas has a good balance between Meshtastic and Meshcore. One of the biggest advocates has been actually the Northwest up in Washington and Oregon. They've been able to get some people like they basically been able to get communications all the way from Northern California up into I'm gonna show my bad geography. Whatever the Canadian province is that right above Washington State. And actually, thank you. I was gonna say British Columbia, and it's like I know that's wrong. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. Hey, I wasn't that wrong. I'm not that much of an idiot. Okay. So, but they've been able to get communications like from one end to the other, pretty well, and they're really very happy with it. So much so that they're some of the local rescue operations are not deploying it. They're just in the exploratory stages, but actually exploring Mesh Core as an opportunity, like another system to be able to find people, as well as some of the existing systems in place for finding people. Again, it's still exploratory stages. Nothing has been locked in and whatnot, but that's something they're very proud of. So all that to say is, I think for at least like the community efforts, individuals are going to do whatever they do, but I think it'd be really good for us to decide for some of these other infrastructure projects, do we want to try to push having both a Meshtastic and a Mesh Core node at the time? I'm in favor of it, but again, like this would be a community effort of it. So I'd love to hear what y'all's thoughts are at the moment. Go ahead, Nick.
I'm pushing medium fast, long fast, and mesh core. So all three can. I get yelled at for that. I think we team maybe see it. Do mesh core and try to support that. So whenever everybody wants to switch to mesh core, we already got a backbone running right up the state.
So to summarize, make sure I'm gotten it right. Summarize, you're saying we prioritize Meshtastic first, and then we talk about like the medium fast whatnot. But we prioritize Meshtastic. Mesh Core will be a side project, but something that should be built out, but secondary to Meshtastic. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Next. Mhm. No, it's
It might be something.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And And certainly, like coming from like being in communication, especially with the North Georgia and Atlanta meshes and those groups, they have been very clear. Like they only use MQTT and have been encouraging MQTT only for the sake of getting feedback for populating their maps, but not for broadcast. They've had a few occasions fairly recently where someone either accidentally, mostly accidentally, turn that setting on and it put a dent in their mesh and put a dent in their ability to communicate and whatnot. So going off what Nick said, we've not seen any indications that there's a lot of actual MQTT traffic as far as like actual messaging stuff. So we have some people that are on it for helping populate the maps and providing feedback for North Georgia and for even the Nashville and some of that stuff. But everyone has been very firm on no MQTT messaging, period, and making sure that people, as they come on, they know turn that off. Here's what's safe. Here's what's not safe. So sorry, were you gonna say something, Mark? Or okay, Ed?
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Being new, when the time I ordered,
Yeah.
so there's crazy what just happened in a short time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I mentioned that the TC2 video and like really, we had some people kind of poking like, oh, this could be fun to try. But after his video, there's been a lot of even just in the Chattanooga area that's seen a growth in it. Not to mention just some of the larger like.
If you're a hobbyist,
Mhm.
the barrier to entry is very low.
Mhm.
To like throw up a meshcore or a meshtastic
Yeah.
node or repeater, it's so
Yeah.
frankly, it's pretty cheap.
Especially on Alibaba.
And-
Holy cow.
Yeah, I used it, and I've got a mask, so I had to run LMR 400.
Mhm.
My antenna cable costs more than my node and my antenna combined. So
I have to say the other benefit in the discussion of meshtastic versus meshcore, they use the same hardware.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if we focus one or the other and oops, things went the other way, well, let's go pull a node down, reflash it, put it back.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's
Extra
but it's
is there.
you're not having to buy whole new equipment that is completely incompatible.
Right, yeah.
And there's a lot of like some of the most popular nodes, like we talked about, like the seed solar nodes and whatnot, that are already compatible with. We're not waiting for people to actually make new firmware for it. We already have both Meshtastic and Meshcore firmware available from the get-go.
Things, the Leos, the
Yeah.
1,000 cards.
Yeah.
The Hell Tech board, but the
Mhm.
ESP32 and NRF52 board.
Yeah. Real quick, because I've not been very good about it. Do we have anything in the chat, like either questions or concerns about it, or is it pretty quiet? Okay, that's fine. I want to make sure, especially getting to like this kind of open discussion, I want to make sure I was like, oh, I haven't been checking that. So,
You
Bill.
mentioned Steve repeaters. One of the things we talked about that Mark before. What I see is the software for meshcore is not as robust yet as meshtastic.
Okay.
On the Seed Solar, if you flash it to meshcore, all the buttons and lights stop working.
That's good to know.
And so you can't turn it off.
That's a bit of a problem. That does seem like a bit of a problem.
That does seem like a bit of a problem. Now, there are ways to find it and get around it, but that's
Yeah.
a problem.
Yeah, it is.
And I actually flashed my repeater over, my solar over to meshcore, and then I flashed it back because I really wanted to have some control of what was happening. So I'm okay with meshcore, but I would like it to be mature enough that it will support things adequately.
Okay. Ed, are you gonna?
Yeah, so here's two hardware-wise exactly the same. Turn them on. One's both core. Oh, different versions of core up there. Yeah. This one on my left, if I there's the British guy made one's pretty cool. These are both they're both Ripple.
Andy Kirby?
One he put out. This one, boy, you can do everything you want to do. Yeah. This one. Yeah. So there's an issue way back above our scope to even address. There's so many. If you go down the list of what to flash your device in, there's the Ripple, and within the Ripple, there's subdivisions of Ripple, and that's what I have. So there's also different community flashes.
In terms of
and
how
they're
well
also
the network is
different
saying.
hosts.
It's just
Through the GUI.
It's your choice of GUI. What do you want to feel better? What do you like?
Yeah. And
you get a loader too. There's loader firmware out there. You can put a loader on the device, and then when you turn it on, you can pick. You can go, oh, I want it to be meshcore. No, I want it to be meshtastic. No, I want it to be this other version of meshcore. Yeah, you have like a little list of OSs and pick one.
yeah, yeah,
Cool.
yeah. We're talking about Andy Kirby doing that as well. And I think to Bill's point too, like, one of the things that when I started talking in some of the communities about, putting up a rooftop, especially again, going back to the North Georgia group, they were very, very strongly advocating, like, if you're going to put up a solar node, fine, but you should really put up a Raspberry Pi, an antenna and do it, that way, just put up a little Linux computer, doing that. And while, at least that I've seen, there is a little Linux utility for running on a Raspberry Pi for meshcore. To Bill's point, it's certainly not as robust, not having touched it myself, just looking at some of the, the features and whatnot, the use of it, it is, again, it is less robust than the current meshtastic Linux client as well. So I see your point. I think that's worth considering as far as, current robustness and whatnot. So, what else? Any other thoughts and whatnot? I want to make sure this is good discussion. I'm glad we're having it. So,
One other thought, Nick, I think you mentioned, Mark, that you saw meshtastic not growing as much as meshcore to be able to go into the future. I wonder if that's true. If I'm the meshtastic developer and I see meshcore eating my lunch, I'm going to do something about it. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to
They're
come
both
out
open source and free. So, well, meshcore is not open source. Yeah,
Yeah.
meshtastic is open.
Yeah.
So I guess my point was though that I don't think either side's really making a whole lot of money. I don't think making a few bucks on client layer.
I do know from the developers of Meshtastic that they are actively working to do something about the meshcore routing benefits and trying to do it themselves. So essentially, the developers in the background trying to combat that because they're like, don't go to meshcore.
Yeah.
Fix it.
Yeah, I think
that could well be. They could basically just change meshtastic to acting like meshcore.
Yeah, and I think we.
Devices from being routed.
Yeah, I know one of the, if I remember correctly, it's been a hot minute, but some of the people we were talking to about meshcore from the Northwest Corridor, that they were talking about that one of the meshtastic developers was actually lives in their area and had watched, basically everyone switch in that area from meshtastic to meshcore, and basically they kind of put that fire under the rest of the developers, like, this just happened in my neighborhood. They all stopped using it, or mostly stopped using it. If we do not do something about this, like you said, like people are going to eat at lunch. Meshcore is going to eat at lunch, or they're going to do something else. So
But again,
yeah,
they just have different purposes. And yeah, meshtastic could re-engineer itself so that it has a different purpose. But its purpose right now does not lend itself to regional networks.
Yeah, and it's like you said, like Jimmy mentioned from the beginning, like some of the new current firmware. It seems like meshcore is trying to add some of the the benefit of meshtastic, being able to do point to point as need be. And you talked about, like, we're aware of like the router firmware updates that they're trying to push to be able to say, hey, we can we're going to allow these routers to not have some of the issues with hops and transmit and whatnot. So but I think too, like, the thing we have to be thinking about right now is we need to pay attention to the future and not just like sit on our laurels, but we also kind of have to figure out what are we going to do right now, because theoretically we could do pie in the sky kind of stuff with either of these protocols, but we'll just say, hey, I can radio frequency someone with my little T1000 to someone in Britain with no repeaters in the way. It's going to be great. It's no, like, that again, very pie in the sky, very goofy, but I think the point is, like, But, like, again, I think it's like, hey, we have to kind of work with what we've got now, and something could change later that really, makes one a whole lot better, whether it's just over the other or just a big improvement. I think we just need to decide kind of in the moment, what do we want to do? What do we want to focus, like what Nick said, on doing? Let's make Meshtastic the priority and Meshcore is secondary. Do we want to go ahead and say keep Meshcore and Meshtastic, even focus? I think that's what I really want to focus on today. We should focus on is what do we want to do at this current stage, and we can come back, it can be like 6 months, a year, and whatnot, and say this isn't working, we should change it, or hold the ship steady. But what I would love to decide, knowing what we know now, knowing how the protocols are currently developing and where their strengths and weaknesses currently are. How do we want to go? How do we want to move forward on this? So, oh,
We're a niche market, a niche group at the moment.
Yeah.
And I hope we grow.
Yeah.
But if the majority also are interested in meshcore.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Max, do you have something you want to say too?
There's a lot of infrastructure for the mesh tasking.
Mhm.
And you can select medium fast, long fast. There's like a selection of about a dozen different modes that you can select just for the mesh tasking infrastructure that's already there. And I'm not saying that to down the mesh core,
No.
but like Nick had said, maybe focus on the mesh tastic, but also keep the mesh core going in the back of your mind, adding a node here, adding a node there, and kind of let it build up slowly. And that way it gives you a fall back to or a switch over to if the time comes.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the things I heard earlier was you talked about in the roles, client mute.
Yeah.
Seems to me if we moved our clients to client mute, we would get a lot of benefit of mesh core without.
Yeah, when you have just client mute and routers and client bases, you're basically getting mesh core with meshtastic. So yeah, and go ahead, Jim.
As a new guy looking in, we're all a bunch of nerds getting all this running.
How dare you?
when we start, in the general population, I think the simpler, less, fewer minutia differences and choices of setting up your unit, the better. I have not even looked at mesh path.
Oh, Animus?
I will go ahead and point out, because this is a good place in the conversation to do it. Meshtastic has a hard maximum limit of 7 hops. It is with a default limit of 3. Meshcore, has a significantly larger hop limit.
Yeah. Yeah. And that gets a little bit into the conversation about if the future router firmware will let you do favorites and whatnot to reduce the counter or fake increase the counter. Excuse me, I'm saying that wrong. But no, you're right. Like that's an important distinction there in talking about like how far we can get with meshtastic as opposed to meshcore and whatnot, and how far. So okay. Yeah. 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 I'm yeah. No. Yeah. It makes a lot more sense for Washington State to say like, can we communicate across to Canada than it does for us to be thinking about that. Yeah. 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 And if I was able to talk like completely over the mesh to my cousin in Nashville that got me on this, like I would be happy with that. But you're right, to kind of bring it back in, you're right, like focusing on like the, first like Chattanooga proper, or at least the greater Chattanooga area, and then moving over to, like some of the larger stuff like Atlanta and Nashville and Asheville. Yeah. 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 So
Beyond that, there's other infrastructure out
yeah.
there, like those that are hams and radio.
I was telling Ben for a second as like the more Bill was talking about like, the Skywarn system and stuff like that. I was like, I do not have the time to do this. I know my wife would kill me if I get into one more thing. But dang, it does kind of sound cool. This is kind of one of the reasons I like the meshtastic stuff. It's like can't get into more things if my wife kills me first. I wouldn't. Yeah, from the way people are talking, it doesn't sound as hard as I thought. But all right. Anyway, sorry, we're getting on to me and not about the thing. So all right. So
If you were an IT, you could pass technician today.
yeah. I did not come to this meeting for people to convince me to join amateur radio. I came to talk. This is not this is not an intervention, people. All right. So we can talk about people trying to convince me to get into ham and amateur radio after the fact. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of people trying to do that. As far as meshtastic and meshcore and infrastructure, again, people are going to deploy what they want to deploy on the rooftops, and that's great. Certainly no one I think would stop that. As far as what our community wants to focus on, there's a lot of good discussion. Let's see again. Let's take a vote on it. Let's not decide. But the two things I'm hearing are either meshtastic is priority and meshcore is secondary, but we should still build it out. And the other side I'm hearing seems to be meshcore and meshtastic equal priority. Is that what everyone else is hearing, or is that kind of like those are the two main ones I'm hearing? Okay, so all right, cool. Then let's and Animus, there's no other comments right now in the chat either. Okay. Then I say let's just take a vote and decide what we want to do for, at least thinking about more the infrastructure building projects. Oh, okay, good to know. Best of luck to him. Bad Stash is he's one of our guys up in the Tri-Cities area. He's helped mods the Discord, and he was helping monitor like comments and whatnot for us. So thank you, Bad. I love that I'm like talking into a microphone and I'm yelling out to him like he's on the computer. All right. So yeah, let's take a vote on. We'll do the first one being if we vote yes if meshtastic is prioritized and meshcore is secondary. Raise your hand. Yes, if you want meshtastic as priority, but meshcore is secondary. Like we focus on that. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And then raise your hand for meshcore and meshtastic are equal priority. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. This is. Oh yeah. No, and again, none of this is to say like we have to stick with this until the end of time. This is just. All right. So it looked like if I kind of right, it looked like meshtastic prioritized is the winner there. So, all right, we're gonna do that. All right, cool beans. That's awesome. Next thing to talk about is we talk about this with meshtastic is medium fast, and the potential should we move to that or not. So currently we are using the default long fast preset, and thank you to Nick for putting together the slide. There are a lot of different radio presets going all the way from like short turbo all the way to long slow. That affects the data rate, coding rate, bandwidth, and all that stuff. So right now, long fast is what we're currently on. You see here in the bold, and that is the default for if you just set up a meshtastic node and you do nothing, long fast is the default operation. And they chose that because it's a good balance between distance and speed of transmission and all of that stuff. But as mentioned, the more dense the mesh gets, we're obviously going to hit that issue of like we start getting very high channel utilization, especially if people, we can control some of that with like how chatty some of our nodes are, not broadcasting things like telemetry on our pocket nodes or whatnot. But at some point, we're going to have to look at changing to a different radio preset. And the common one for a lot of people has been medium fast. That's what the North Georgia and Atlanta meshes are on. Nashville is on that. They have definitely, especially North Georgia, Nashville less so, but North Georgia has been very much like pushing for us to move. Has some, I would argue, somewhat aggressive, but but some very they've been very much like encouraging us to move to medium fast and to help with that, and also for their benefit of it, not just expanding their mesh, but also potentially being another connector to Nashville as well. So the question is whether or not we want to do this. So right now, like I said, medium fast, if currently being used by Nashville and Atlanta, it could really expand our connections to them. And we'd might be able to piggyback on some of particularly North Georgia's infrastructure. Right now, admittedly, looking at the map, like we talked about, North Chattanooga really has no connections. So we're kind of like we would need to build stuff out there, and not to mention all the way up to Nashville. I think is kind of right now that's more of a pipe dream. We're really connecting more to Atlanta if we just were to switch to medium fast, but could be a connection and could be something that we could start building out towards. And we would be able to reduce some of the congestion that we're building out or that we're having an issue with at the moment. Right now, it's we're not like on the verge of collapse or anything like that, but we've been hitting 20. We've had some of the people like Hooper was talking about that we've seen 30% on our mesh channel utilization. So the potential switch to medium fast would potentially help kind of like alleviate some of those issues. Now, and the other concern, of course, if we wait too long, I don't know if y'all were aware, Knoxville used to have a pretty sizable meshtastic community, and they stayed on long fast and whatnot and didn't manage some of their mesh for a long time or didn't do it very well. And by the time they tried to implement that, you couldn't get anything out through the mesh, and it just kind of collapsed. The community in Knoxville just evaporated. So doing this could allow us to, to avoid some of that early on. Having said that, things to keep in mind is, again, we're very small and growing mesh. A lot of our infrastructure, like I said, as I've said a lot of times now, it's south side and east side, particularly going to Cleveland. And if we are potentially reducing some of the range on our ability to transmit, we might have some problems with we already have problems outside of like business hours with people being able to communicate. If we now reduce that, we might just exacerbate that problem or just maintain it at best. We still have the issues, of course, like, outside of any infrastructure nodes that we've been talking about with getting things over certain, we had to talk about stringers. We talked about Missionary Ridge, some of these places being able to get over. We still struggle on long fast. Medium fast might exacerbate that as well. I think exacerbate might be my word of the moment right now. So yeah, and say what?
What's the fun for that?
That's a great question. You put me on the spot. And then, yeah, of course, if we switch too soon, could we accidentally become kind of like Knoxville, that we switch too soon and then people can't get out and then they think, what's the point of being on meshtastic? So those are just kind of the few of the, I guess, the key points as far as like the pros and cons of switching or staying. But again, this should be when we want to be a discussion for us about whether or not we switch or stay. Obviously, if we decide to switch, we're not going to do it today. We want an opportunity to make sure that we communicate this out to the larger mesh. We can do it obviously through the meshtastic system as well as through Discord and other channels to broadcast if we do switch that we want to do it, and we want to make sure that we have enough time to be able to get that message out as far as possible and allow people to switch, because we need that, again, community effort. People don't get the message and they don't switch, then we definitely have broken everything. So So, but again, I want to open it to the floor. I'm sorry, Carter, you were supposed to talk about this. Carter was supposed to talk about this. We had agreed to this, and I just started going into it. I'm so sorry. Carter. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. Yeah, so I want to open the floor. I want to open the floor to discussion about the consideration whether to switch to medium fast or not. I saw Max's hand first. I apologize.
I want to throw something out. You know, if you go to YouTube,
Mhm.
search meshtastic,
Mhm.
there's a ton of videos.
Yeah. Mhm. 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 Yeah. 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 No, that's it, and you're right. Like, and one of the things too is like some of the larger meshes. I know Mountain Mesh is very, again, probably because I'm more, I do a lot with them. But like they do, they have stuff on the website and in the Discords and whatnot. They have a lot of places where they can say, here are the settings. If you want to change them yourself, they also have the QR code, so you can scan that through the app and like automatically change the settings and whatnot. That would be, I think, very important for us to be able to do, to do that. Even if we decide to stay with long fast right now, just being able to say, let's have it out there a little bit more easily to say, here's our default settings, whether you want to manually apply it or automatically.
We should have a QR code in the Discord.
We do.
Our default for now, and then on the ChattMesh
Mhm.
website that we was working on.
Oh, we put that on the ChattMesh website?
Should be on there.
Okay.
That's what last I had talked to Chris, I think his name was, about the website. I'm pretty sure he had put the default for at least our area
Okay.
on there, because I know, like you said, Nashville didn't have to move to medium fast.
Yeah.
I know ours is on there, but not on the Mountain Mesh is
Yeah.
website. I can probably talk to Hooper and see if they'd be willing to
Okay.
put our info on there as well. So that's cool. I found the Mountain Mesh first.
Yeah.
If you guys found Mountain Mesh first, I found Mountain Mesh first.
Yeah.
And so I could talk to them about possibly getting our information on their website as well.
Yeah, and to be fair, Mountain Mesh is on the public page for Meshtastic. They're like, hey, if you're in this region, check out there. So it makes sense that a lot of people, at least in our area, check them out first. So, but yeah, no, I think regardless, yeah, like having, like you said, videos, articles, multiple methods to be able to say, hey, yeah, here's how to set this up, and also specifically for our area, here's how we do things and why we do things. So I think would be really good, and not just hit this button, but like you said, like here's why we do this. Here's why this is what you need to set for these things.
We were talking about a while ago about putting this on YouTube later, so that's what we can do on our channel if we get the channel set up.
Yeah,
we can totally just set up a video for exactly what you're talking about.
Agreed.
Totally get that out for our area.
Agreed. And then that would be something easy to be able to share with people, especially brand new people, to be able to share that out to, hey, hey, you're brand new. Here's the video that walks you through every step of the process. Might be a little bit different if someone's got, the T1000 or solar node or whatever, but at least it's like, hey, the core functionality is going to be, what settings you change are still going to be the same if they look slightly different. So I agree. All right. Other thoughts as far as whether we should switch or whether we should stay or should we go.
There you go.
There you go. Thank you.
So
Nick.
I'll try to give you a quick background. I support all three. I live on the southernmost part of Tennessee, right on 75 when you're trying to go into Atlanta. And Mountain Mesh has been pushing medium fast, like Stuart said. I get a lot of that because they know I'm right on the border. So yeah, they push that on me a lot. Well, I support all three, and they know that. So I work a lot with trying to get all three of those up. Long fast, I've been well supporting that. I've got 2 nodes usually, so I've been switching that to medium fast. A couple weeks ago, didn't really see anything. I was kind of bummed. I was like, I don't understand what's going on, so I took it and put it back to medium fast. Meshcore, I'm still fleshing out. I can't do one project, like multiple projects at the same time. But I just put up a solar node yesterday called Sunk, and that was on. I noticed that long fast was fine. Meshcore, I was going to play with that later, so I tried mesh medium fast one more time before I came here. Yesterday, I found out that on Lookout Mountain, and he said it probably wasn't up there for very long. There is a router up there that someone put up there and didn't say anything since the last time I checked, and it is pushing out at least a watt, and it's which a watt is the max. And I put up my solar node and was like, or actually, I was actually taking my wife to work. I was like, well, that's new. So I went home, rushed my solar node, stuck it up on the roof, not on the mast yet. Didn't matter. That thing was hitting me solid, and I was immediately pulled straight to port in Atlanta. And in the past 24, not even the past 24 hours, I've got almost 200 nodes, and I'm hearing everything Atlanta's saying, and I'm right there, so I'm connected.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because that thing is up on the mountain, and it is just pushing out the signal. So you can see, I went to my wife's work out north. I was like, let me test it. I checked it, immediately said, bang, bang, good. Like, you can get to it decently well, but it gets back to you perfectly well.
Okay.
All right. My wife can definitely communicate with me now because Lookout Mountain is.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So yeah,
He was talking about doing that. I talked to him last week. He was talking about putting one up.
Okay. Is medium.
Yeah.
This is new. So
Yeah. Yeah. The fact, because I remember the Mountain Mesh had done.
Hello. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's the one that Luke was talking about. He wanted to see if I could hit that one, or it was one of the other mountains that he put
Yeah.
up.
Because I remember a few weeks ago, the Mountain Mesh had put one up that was both long and medium to kind of like. Yeah, but you're talking. This is a completely different one.
This is a medium fast only. It's right here in Chattanooga, and it's look over the whole city. You probably can hit it.
You gotta
from
go.
here.
All right. Sorry to keep you, but
Oh no.
I'm glad you were able to make it.
She's going to.
Oh, that's right. You're going. Yeah, that's right. The baby. Right.
Oh yeah.
That's right. Best of luck to them. So, thank you for coming, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks. Medium fast.
All right. His vote for medium fast. We got it on the record at least. All right. Cool. No, that's important information, man. Thank you. So.
Node, and I think you said at the time Grassy Mountain.
Yes.
I've also put one up. That's the Crass.
Mm-hmm. That's a big one.
And I've talked to them on the phone since then, and their intention is to talk to the EMA director for Walker County and put a node on every public safety tower in Walker County.
Oh wow.
The Tri-State Amateur Radio Club is going to put the goal is to get one up for the 535 repeater is at High Point Mountain, and I think he also mentioned White Oak Mountain for the 443 525 repeater is. So we're starting to get a good network in the Walker, Capital County area, part of North Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And that's on medium fast,
medium
right?
fast.
Okay. All right.
And not to interrupt, but 10-minute warning on that.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. All right, 10 minutes. So, all right. What other comments, concerns, questions, either for or against, do we want to be thinking about, or anyone had?
I had mentioned that I'm going to be getting that one node up in Cleveland, so we'll at least have a start in Cleveland for medium fast.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be able to monitor it 24/7. 7.
Right.
But I'll at least have one starting in Cleveland for medium.
Okay. All right. That's good. So one of the things I'll mention, and we don't have to do this. I know some of the Atlanta and Georgia people were saying just switch and it'll be fine. But one of the things I know some other groups have done is they've done core tests. So they've done some of the like more important nodes in their area. They've switched over when they were exploring switching over from one to another. They did some core tests to see what it looked like with some of their their key locations. And then later decided to make the switch, but they use that as like a testing ground to see how well it worked. Of course, that was a very coordinated thing with the community. Might be something worth looking into, but if that's something that we kind of feel like we want to, but I'm not saying that we have to. So just another thought to add into that as well. So Nick, do you have something?
They got all and then it successfully worked for them. So they said no testing. That's just their
Yeah,
that's just their
of course.
comment.
Yeah.
No testing, just do it. Just push.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Atlanta was like you said, very much was like just switch, just make a hard date, announce it, and cut off. Versus Nashville, they kind of like did a little more testing and whatnot. Or not Nashville, that's not the city, but okay, okay, Ed. Yeah, yeah.
I would get it.
Yep. Yeah, I think. Sorry, I cut you off. I was gonna say I think Nick and Carter are on the same boat. Is especially if you go down, if you were say on long fast passing through the area, and you can see it, depending on where you are right now. That repeater that they put up that is dual medium and long fast. It will. I don't remember what the time frame is, but they will actually post out and say, yeah, that sounds right. But yeah, they will post out and say so, and they keep that in their actual like core area. They keep that going. They have a couple nodes that stay on long fast just for the purpose of posting out to say, hey, we switched to medium fast. If you just got a new node or you're brand new to this, or you're in you're visiting the area, they'll do that. So
That'd be perfect for us.
yeah, we would definitely do something like Max.
On the Mountain Edge, the QR code.
Mm-hmm.
It's set up as secondary for a long fast. And that long fast, I've seen a message come up saying that we have moved to medium fast with the URL that we can go to for their website.
Does that secondary one actually use the long pass frequency? I thought the way it was set up was that if you're setting medium pass in the node itself, it only uses medium pass as that.
Don't they have a bridge, Nick? Do you want to?
So it's a bridge, and if you're on long fast, essentially they're talking to each other. So anything the medium fast gets on medium fast and the long fast gets on the long fast, they pass to each other and retransmit out on their own frequency. So all long fast people on long fast will also get medium fast traffic, and it's up to their device whether if they have a medium fast channel, it'll say, okay, you can read this. Now you have medium.
And 5-minute warning on the
app.
app.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's temporary. That bridge is temporary. They're literally just trying to get Chattanooga.
They have it just for us. How nice. All right. So, what other? Again, I know we got the 5 minutes, so we can, if we want to finish up this part of the conversation, and to go ahead and take the vote. But I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to put their 2 cents in or any questions or concerns about it. So, is there anything else we want to be thinking about? Otherwise, we'll take it to a vote. All right, then let's vote. All in favor of switching to, we'll pick a date afterwards if it passes. Let me go ahead and just say that. But all in favor of us switching to medium fast, raise your hand. Well, that's easy. That's easy. That passes. So, what's the time frame we want to look at? Is a month too much, or do we want to do something like 2 weeks? What do we? Let's make it.
I can jump in there. Apologize.
No, please.
I wonder what it takes to get that,
Like the cron job, the message. Mhm.
once we have
Okay. Mhm. Yeah. And we obviously will, we'll probably want not just one node, but a couple different nodes to say, like, even if it's a minimum, like once a day, to say we're switching. If we said March 1st, for example, it doesn't have to be that. But if we said March 1st, we're switching to this thing, we can have multiple nodes that are broadcasting it, whether manually or on on a cron job kind of thing, as well as like putting it on other places, like on the website or on the Discord, to say, we are doing this on this date, hard switch and whatnot, and make sure that this is communicating out. So,
We might be able to get whoever's doing it, like I talked about a while ago.
Yeah.
On the long fast, for the medium fast.
Yeah.
No, we might get them to be able to, might be able to get them to push out a message also.
yeah.
And next weekend is the Dalton Town Fest.
Mhm.
So we could
Mm.
probably put something up at the Dalton Town Fest and get a lot.
You got him very excited.
That's good. That's a good idea.
Oh, okay. All right. Then how are we doing on time, Raptor? All right, cool. Then I say let's go ahead and let's pick a date. I threw out March 1st. I'm open to that. If y'all think it's too much or too little time, then tell me. But I don't think we should push more than a month to push this out, give or take. So what do y'all think would be a good date for it? If we said March 1st, that gives us like a week. So Nick, March 21st. Nick, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say Mark.
Okay. Oh, daylight saving. That's a good point. That is on the 8th. Okay, yeah, good point. Ed?
Well, I say April 1st, and I think we're all for it.
It's like, what ruined the Chattanooga mesh? A documentary. So, okay. So we've got the 7th and we've got the 21st. We also just say meet in the middle and say the 14th, but honestly, like all right. Yeah, no. Ads?
42nd.
All right. We want to what about the 14th? We want to just say the 14th? That puts it at the 3-week time span. Okay. All right. All in favor of March 14th being the hard cutoff date to medium fast? All right. Votes have it. All right. So we'll start working out on advertising, and we're going to cut to ad break, but we'll be right back after these sponsor messages. That would be kind of nice if you could, though.
I wish I could pick what ads got shown on my channel.
Can you? I know on YouTube, like you can say like I I'm definitely in favor of like part of the reason I got hired at my job was because like it's like, oh, you like writing documentation and how to do this stuff. It's like I'm like, and it makes sense. So all right. Are we back on? Cool. So yeah, we're on medium fast. We're going to March 14th. We're going to switch to medium fast. And we've decided that we're going to prioritize meshtastic over meshcore, but we're going to keep meshcore like, keep it going in the background, and certainly not discourage it in any way. Those were kind of the core things, I think the big stuff, but I wanted to make sure that if there was any other topics of conversation that people wanted to cover, questions, about like setting up stuff or what we want to do going forward, or just any other things with the larger mesh. If there's anything else we want to talk about, there were a few other things that people had brought up in the spreadsheet. Medium fast and mesh core and standards in education were kind of the three big ones that kept getting repeated. So wanted to make sure that those were the three that we focused on. But if there's anything else that people wanted to talk about or do while we're here before we wrap up the the official part of the meeting, that we can. Please, Bill.
Maps.
Maps?
Maps. There are half a dozen kinds of maps that are floating around. Mountain Mesh has a pretty good one. I've heard from some of my amateur radio people that they would like to have a Chattanooga map, Chattanooga area map, independent of the Mountain Mesh map.
Okay.
Any interest in that?
I think that would be. Did you have something, Carter?
I know we had talked a little bit with the guy that was doing the
TN Mesh website?
yeah,
Mesh
website.
Yeah.
About a map. I can't remember if it was statewide or if it was more local. I think it was more statewide. We could probably get one set up. We'll have to find hosting and stuff for it unless we put it on the Mesh website. We can get one set up that's more local for this area.
Okay. Ed, do you have a thought on that?
So are you talking about the tiles? Because the tiles, you got one of these standalone devices and you're not using your phone as the interface.
Are you talking more the website?
So map manager on the net.
But that's in the app, right? Or
Yeah, but isn't that dependent on a cell signal anyway?
Set up right, it'll actually transmit to an MQTT server.
that's and to your point, Animus, they don't. So whatever devices are MQTTing back to it, they're going to show whatever nodes they can see. Though all those nodes don't have to be on MQTT as well onto the same server. So, yeah. Yeah.
When the grid goes down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are correct. Yeah, yeah. And to that point, getting tiles, if anybody uses these darn things, you either spend a fortune or you know how to do some finagle Linux, which is above my ability with Linux. You can learn it all.
as I understand it with those, with all of it, is that the radios that have location capability, have a location set in their settings, or have the GPS modules in them like this does, can be set up to communicate their location to each other over the mesh.
That's why I'm
So,
saying the pretty picture.
Yeah.
I
think
It's just like
I think
this.
there's I think we're kind of to your point. Like there's a lot of there's different when we talk maps. There's a lot of different things it can be, and I think
What I'd like to see is if
yes.
we share tile. That's what I'm getting.
Okay,
For all
okay.
these who have
Yeah.
right up there working device, and we share tile.
Yeah. So okay, so you're talking about like sharing the tiles across the stuff, and what Bill's talking about is a more public map for people that aren't on the mesh, maybe something online, to be able to see like, oh yeah, this is what the Chattanooga infrastructure looks like. Bill, that's what you are asking, correct? Okay. Okay. So gotcha. So all right. So yeah, kind of the two different things. So as far as Bill is saying, just start with that first. So Bill is saying, can we or do we have a map showing the Chattanooga infrastructure and how the mesh looks here? And Carter, to your point.
I don't think we do yet, but I will get with the guy that's on the website
Mhm.
and see what it would take to get us one for local. And if he's not able to do it, I'll see if we can work out a way to have one here for
Not
the.
the mesh is using the software. with the name of it,
Mesh view or
that was developed in Southern California, but it's available for anybody to use.
Mhm.
That's what not mesh is using.
Yeah.
In the mesh.
Well, I've got a home server at the house. I might be able to get it spun up myself, but I don't know.
And we've got a few servers in our 7-foot tall 4-post rack in the basement.
That's much better than my little clip that I got.
Yeah, it's a full data center. I can see that for the government.
That might work a little better.
Later about getting that stuff, you know.
Okay.
I've got a 2.5.
It might not be a bad idea either to, if there was a way, we'd obviously there's a couple extra hangups, but maybe there's a way to say like have that map, if we could have it both like on a local like Chattanooga mesh site, but also have it like broadcast in the larger TN mesh, because it might be more beneficial to have like in the same way that Nash Mesh does, like be able to say like, hey, this is kind of like our focus, but it'd be cool to see the rest of Tennessee, but like here's our focus in Nashville. But so maybe it would be good to have a way to say like, yeah, here's the Tennessee mesh site. If someone just wants to see the larger thing and they can zoom in, quote unquote, to Chattanooga, but also that's to have our dedicated, like, here's the actual Chattanooga mesh, here's our stuff, here's this page you can look at if you just want to be focused on our local community. Again, like we talked about with all the meshcore stuff, like first local, then regional. So what do you think about that? Okay, cool. Max, did you have something you want to say?
I had seen them, and y'all may have alluded to this, on Discord, where somebody had mentioned that, if someone would give him the Latin long coordinates, that he could make something.
Yeah.
That person might be able to like it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple different websites that'll also let you like put a, metaphorical like node somewhere and then say like also like here's how far the mast stuff is off the ground or how powerful it is to let you see the coverage maps. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Meshcore's map actually has functionality.
Yeah. That's one I was thinking of. I know they're not the only ones, but that was the one I was thinking of. Sorry, you were gonna say something.
I was just, the ones I've seen, you put your name in,
Right, of course. Is that kind of what you getting at, Max, or?
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
what the guy was alluding to in the message,
Mhm.
that he could generate.
Okay. No, you're good. You're good.
I didn't know who.
No, you're good. All right. So just to kind of wrap up, we want to explore having an infrastructure map on like the public facing web in some way so that people can see that infrastructure that we've got. and even if we wanted to use some of that for planning future stuff. But that's what you were talking about, correct, Bill? So we want to explore doing that then? Okay. Would I'm sorry, I keep referring to you as Daedalus in my head because that's what I saw you on the thing. Like, what's your real name? Joe. Thank you. Do y'all and Carter want to get together and like kind of figure out how to do that? Is that okay? I don't want to impose anything on you. All right.
Yeah, you guys aren't too far.
Okay. Again, I don't want to impose anything. I know y'all, especially y'all two, have done a lot already, so I don't want to just say, "Hey, y'all take on more work." Let me dump more on you.
Well,
Seriously. Okay. All right. So, I mean, if there's other people that want to get involved with it, definitely, many hands make light work. So, okay. And then Ed, you want to talk a little bit about the tiles and stuff? Oh, oh okay. TDEX, you can have an SD card in the map, so you can actually map out your stuff. Yeah. So yeah. So like to answer your thing. So like if you're on iPhone or Android, if you're using the app, you can pull up the node map and zoom in. It's using either Google or Apple Maps or Open Maps, depending on what app you're using. On the condensed devices like the TDEX and whatnot, if you load it on an SD card, you can load maps onto that and actually see you have your you're not going to get all the functionality of traffic and whatnot, obviously. Yeah. But you're getting at least say, hey, here's MOK, here's broad, here's whatever. And then also if there are nodes that have their location set or broadcasting, you can also have a way to say, hey, navigate to that node, And now, yeah, of course you're assuming that node is actually a real node, or let me phrase that, is a real location and not just hey, I don't want to broadcast a real location, so I'm putting myself on the river, So
has inbuilt station of
yeah, that sounds right. All right, cool. Yeah, sorry. We got sidetracked? Did we get kind of to what you're talking one with the tiles? All right. What else? What other conversations, questions? You got another?
Sorry, I got another
No.
question. This is a technical question. If I have a node, like I do, I have a couple of solar nodes that are up on poles.
Mm-hmm.
How hard is it to update the firmware? Do I have to get them down to do it, or can I do it remotely?
Meshtastic, you can push it from the app over Bluetooth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it works okay?
As long as it's not an ESP32 node.
Yes. If they if they are the NRF ones, you can do that over with an app on your phone.
NRF nodes.
Yeah, then you're good. If they are the ESP, go ahead.
The ESP32 nodes grab a direction Yankee Bluetooth antenna and your laptop, and you can still do it over Bluetooth.
Yeah. So, but I think that's also another reason, for a lot of the stationary stuff, a lot of people in North Georgia really push for the Linux nodes, because then you can connect it to PoE or Wi-Fi, and you can remote into it and do all the update stuff from SSH or whatever else. So
You can also remotely do it from another node, but that's a little bit more complicated.
yeah, you have to. You actually can with admin keys. If you set up public-private keys and set that up, you can also do it from another through the mesh and whatnot. But
yeah, I've read about that. I just wanted to know if people had practical experience that it actually worked.
Yeah, I've updated my solar node that's 15 foot up at the side of an oak tree across Bluetooth from my phone, and it's one of the Seed Solar.
Okay, that worked okay.
I don't know. I don't have any
only node I've had flash meshcore is this so far.
Mhm.
I flashed it back to meshtastic.
Entering Tennessee. Hello,
Yeah, I
friend.
see that.
Hello, friend. So, all right. Cool. Is that I've not had any trials with the admin keys function to do it over the mesh instead of Bluetooth or internet. So
I tried that in my office and it worked okay.
Okay.
I haven't tried to actually separate them by
Right.
distance and see if it works.
Okay. So cool. So yeah, it's totally doable. This is what I think we've established. Very doable.
I know eventually things could happen and you'd have to pull them down anyway because something happened when you were flashing. That's okay.
Oh, sorry, I messed that up. Sorry.
I did it a while ago.
But to your point, you'd have to do that with any piece of equipment, right? At some point, like whether it just goes belly up or you gotta, something goes really wonky. So,
Yeah.
All right. What else? Any other topics of conversation or questions that people brought up or wanted to bring up? Next meeting date. So, how often do we want to do this? I guess the question. Like, is it once a quarter good enough or once a quarter? Oh, all right. Let's plan for that.
Plan for which one?
Like in the next quarter.
Quarter, okay.
Let me pull up my calendar here. So March, April, May. Yeah. So yeah, May would probably be the 3-month mark if we want to do that. So okay. So
Good for everybody.
want to do like the 23rd then? That would match up pretty well as far as like, let's say 16th or 23rd maybe of May. How's that sound for everybody? Oh, did they have a workshop here at the 16th?
Do not have one scheduled in May right now.
Okay. So 16th then? Any objections? Going once? Twice? All right. And what about this time? Does this time still work good for everybody? Or all right. So yeah, let's just plan then for we'll do noon again on May 23rd. So that work good? Awesome. All right. So just kind of wrap things up. Next meeting. Hold on, what did I say? I didn't actually go ahead and mark my calendar.
May 16th.
16th, thank you. I was about to say 23rd, like, hold on. May 16th, noon is the next meeting. We are going to switch over to medium fast, and on the 14th of March, and we're going to work on broadcasting that out. But that is going to be a hard switch update, and otherwise focus on meshtastic with secondary being meshcore. So, all right. Anything else? I think we're good. Everyone get pizza, get drinks, take stuff home. Everyone's welcome to have get leftovers and whatnot. But otherwise, I think we're good for the day. So, I forgot to pick up the mic animus for that whole last thing. Was that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Decently sensitive, so.
All right. Yes, that's good. I just realized, like, all right, I'm not doing my job very well on some of this. So, all right, cool. Well, thank y'all. Thank y'all so much. And again, thank you for Chattanooga Amateur Radio Club for letting us use your space and
Happy to do it.
we really enjoy it. Thank you, man. So, all right. Just turn this off, Animus.
Yeah. For bringing it here.
James.
And thank you to everybody that tuned in for this. Thanks for joining us. Have a good rest of your weekend.